Yes, folks, it's Sales from the Jails with John G. Sutton. I got quite a few likes yesterday for my little expose of the truth on Derek Acora, who ended up as a complete fake psychic pretend medium, and I thought you obviously did enjoy that, because I got quite a lot of response from that, so thank you all, and all the people who are regularly contributing by making comments and liking my videos. I want to thank you very much, it really helps. And today I'm going to do a little poem at the end of this for a guy in Shropshire, one of my favourite counties, one of my favourite places in the whole wide world, and he's called Aidan, not Adrian as I mistakenly labelled him the other day, but Aidan. So Aidan, at the end of this I'm going to read a poem from A. Houseman's A Shropshire Lad. I'm going to read Breedon Hill from A Shropshire Lad by A. Houseman. So as you hopefully enjoyed my broadcast yesterday on items of showbiz, I thought I'd continue today to talk a little bit about my horrible experiences of working with that notorious trouser-splitting, child-molesting pervert PJ Proby. Now, I first met PJ Proby, met him face-to-face, shook his hand, as pictures to show it, in 1968. I had seen him since 1964, when he appeared with the Beatles on a special produced by Jack Good, in which he sang I believe for everyone who goes astray, although he did it a good deal better than that. And from that he recorded Hold Me Together, Somewhere I Apologise, Let the Water Run Down, all the rest of it. He had loads of hits in the charts. An album that got in the charts as well called I Am PJ Proby. So he was a reasonably well-known name, but he got himself banned for splitting his trousers and exposing his genitals to little girls on the stage at Luton in I think it was January 1965. And after that he was banned. There's a real reason why he was banned, and it's got nothing to do with him splitting his trousers. I will tell you about that at another date. But it was basically nothing to do with splitting his trousers, because, to be honest, all that did was create a load of publicity. And as Tallulah Bankhead once said, there's no such thing as bad publicity. And I believe it was Oscar Wilde who said there's only one thing worse than people talking about you, and that's people not talking about you. Seriously. Anyway, I thought I'd give you a little one or two incidences of my horrible experiences of working with PJ Proby. I went to his house one afternoon. This is when he was living at 164 Hatfield Road, Bolton. It's still there. It's been subject to a little bit of gentrification. Back in 1990, it wasn't quite that sophisticated. But anyway, I went to his house in Bolton. I had to see him something about publicity that we were doing. We were going to do a show for Granada TV. And so I gets there, and front door's open. I just walk in, bang on the door, walk in. And he sat there, this is God's honest truth. He had one of them little Hoover things, the ones that you pull around. They got like a round, and they pull them round. They got like an extension hose that sucks all the muck off the floor. Except he'd removed the brush from the end and stuck it over the end of his penis. And I said, nice to see you, Jim. What do you think you're up to? He said, the bastard doesn't work. I'm gonna make it work. For God's sake, stop that at once, He was completely and utterly incorrigible. Anyway, that was just one incidence of his obnoxious behaviour. We were went to Chesterler Street. We were recording at Chesterler Street and stayed at the Holiday Inn at Newcastle. He had his room, I had my room. So I finally managed to get him out of his bed. I'll tell you the other story about that later. But I managed to get him out of his bed about 9:30. Right, we're due in the studio at 10 o'clock. I mean, don't forget these recording studios cost money. So anyway, I get him out of his bed, managed to get him. He was still in dress with his big Stetson hat on and his boots on. Right, let's go. So we get out of the room, and as we're going through reception, who should be sat in reception but Torvill and Dean? You know, the skaters. Da 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 da. Yeah, Ravel's Bolero. That's the one they danced to, you know. I skated to anyway. So I saw them sitting down, and Proby says, I'm going to go and say hello. I said, you don't know them, Jim. I'm PJ Proby, they'll see me. I said, no, they fucking won't. Come here. So I grabbed him by the back of his jacket, because he had a big blue jacket on. Grabbed him by the back of his jacket and frog marched him out the place. Can't have him doing that. Yeah, especially as in his other hand, in his right hand, he had a plastic Tesco's carrier bag with half a bottle of Jack Daniels in, 3/4 of a bottle of cider, and a half empty bottle of wine. That he drank all the time. He didn't eat. So that was just another little sample. Anyway, we get into the recording studio, and I've told you this before. He decided he wasn't going to sing, so I gave him an option. This is all costing money. We've got musicians, we've got sound engineers, we've got the studio. How much do you think this is costing? I ain't singing. He said, I ain't in the mood. I said, well, you might not be in the mood, but I'm paying for this, so if I'm paying for it, I'm going to get my money. Make my money's worth at least. He said, what do you mean, man? I said, I'll tell you what, either you sing or I'm going to give you the best hiding you've had in your life. He said, the only way I'm going to sing is if you hit me. Well, the words hadn't left his mouth too long before, boof. I hit him centre chest. I want to hit him in the face. Might damage the ability to sing, you see. He went flying from one end of the studio to the other, fell on the floor. Took him a minute or two, picked himself up. He said, right, I'll sing. Hey, he was bloody brilliant. Yeah. I tell you who has got a copy of the CD. You have heard it, Larry the Goat Man. Got my song on it, Stage of Fools, and one or two others that I wrote. Yeah. So anyway, that was just one incident. Then we stayed in this other hotel. I went back again to do some more. I thought, I'm not paying for the bloody Holiday Inn this time, the way he's behaving. So we stayed in this bar, this pub, with the rooms above. We're getting back to the pub after the afternoon's recording session. It'd be about 7, 8 o'clock at night. And we get going to the pub, and these little girls outside, they were about 8, 9, maybe 10 years old, playing, dancing around, running around the cars and all that. And I never thought nothing about this, because at the time I didn't realise what a pervert he was. I did not. So I'm walking towards the pub. Don't forget, I don't walk very fast. So as I'm getting towards the entrance to the pub, I look round, and Proby's got these 3 little girls and he's talking to them. So I thought, right, I'm not having none of this. Come here, you bastard. Get in. And dragged him into the pub. Unfortunately, there was only one room available, so we had to share the room. There was 2 beds, of course. But he was absolutely blasted out of his mind by this time, because he used to start the day on Carlsberg specials, and he'd have about 3 or 4 of them up to about 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock in the afternoon, Carlsberg specials. Then he'd go on to strong cider, Merry Down, I think it was called, about 7 or 8% proof. Drink a bottle of that, and then by the time he got to around about 6 o'clock at night, he was on the Jack Daniels. And he drank that till he was completely out of his head. So by the time we got back to the pub at about 8:30, 9 o'clock at night, yeah, he was completely blasted. So I managed to get him up to his room. He staggered around the place, fell over, hit the bed. The bed collapsed. He just rolled over and went to sleep. And that was the end of it, for the night. But that's just one thing. We went into a restaurant in Chesterley Street, which is up Durham way. That area, near Newcastle. Anyway, went into a Chinese restaurant and I said, well, what do you want, Jim? And he didn't usually eat, he usually just drank. But this night we'd been in a bar. We were doing about three sessions at these recording studios. So he went in a bar and I said, what do you want, Jim? He said, 4 fingers of Jack Daniels. So that's what he had. 4 Jack Daniels in one glass. And it lasted him about a minute or two. I said, well, we're not going to continue doing this because you'll just pass out. So I said, right, we're going for something to eat. We're going to do a Chinese restaurant, yeah. Chinese restaurant. I said, well, what do you want to eat, Jim? He said, I don't know. He said, I'll have sweet and sour prawns or something like that, So orders this stuff, and it came. And then he looked at this food. We had a bottle of wine. I ordered a bottle of wine. And he said, Charlie. He called all the Chinese waiters Charlie. Charlie, come here, he said. This meal's too dry. So I said, would you get him some sweet and sour sauce, please? So they went away to get the sweet and sour sauce, and I'm talking to the waiter, and I looked round. And what he'd done, he got the bottle of wine and tipped a load of that all over his meal, all over the lot of it, filled his plate up so it was swimming with wine. Then he put his head down and started to lap it up like a dog. Well, there were people in the restaurant, quite a lot of people in the restaurant, and they're all looking round at this. And I'm saying, please, Jim, you're going to get us thrown out of here. He said, fuck him. And he jumped up with his Stetson hat on and he started singing, there's a place for us. Absolutely blasted out of his brain. They asked us to leave, actually. I had to pay the bill, of course. Then he said to me, this woman's been ringing up. So when we got back to Bolton, where he lived at Hatfield Road, he said, will you have a word with her? I said, what do you want me to do? He said, have a word with her. He said, I ain't seen her unless she's going to do the business. I said, oh, really, James? It's not for me to procure women for you, But I said, I will ring her up and ask her what she wants. So I did ring her up. Her name was Elizabeth, but I won't go into any further details about that, but her name was Elizabeth. So I said, what exactly is it you want? She said, I've always been a big fan of PJ Proby, and I finally got this telephone number from somebody who knew him, and I want to come and see him. I said, well, I'll tell you exactly what he said. He said, you can come and see him, but only if you're prepared to entertain him in a manner that he thinks is appropriate. Oh, she says, I'll definitely do that. What am I getting into here, So anyway, she came down and teamed up with PJ Proby, God help her. And about a week later, I'm visiting Proby in his house in Hatfield Road in Bolton. And the next door neighbour came out. She said, can I have a word with you? I said, yeah, what's the matter? She said, all night, 2, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning, there's groaning and screaming and shouting coming from next door. She said, it's next to my mother's room, she can't sleep. She said, would you have a word with him, ask him to calm it down? So I thought, well, there's no point in me talking to PJ Proby just don't make any sense anyway, you know. So I had a word with the lady Elizabeth. You know, I said there's something wrong here. I said the next door neighbour's complaining that 3, 2, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning there's banging and screaming and coming from the room. You know, is there a problem? Is Jim not well? Because his name's Jim, you see. She said, well, I'll tell you, she said, that he's got a problem. I like that bit with the suction, with the Hoover, you know. She said, the only way that he can gain and maintain an erection is if I sit on his face and urinate into his mouth. Seriously. I said, oh, that's a little bit more information than I actually required, you know, but thank you for sharing that with me. I said, next time, keep him quiet. Sit on it properly. Seriously. Yeah, he was one dirty bastard, him. He didn't go to the toilet, you know, not like normal people, but he had a perfectly working downstairs toilet. Yeah, he didn't use it. He had buckets. He had about 6 2-gallon plastic buckets around the room, and he used to urinate into the buckets, and he suffered from sinusitis, and the buckets were full of empty tins of Carlsberg Special, bottles of Merrydown cider, urine, stinking, rotten urine, and snot, because he used to blow it into the buckets. And there were half a dozen of these, 3/4 full with all this gunge. He had a lady friend who was a barrister. Marlene, her name was. She was a really nice lady. She was a law lecturer at Manchester University. So anyway, she came to see. She said, can I have a word with you? She said, I'm a bit worried about James. I said, you're a bit worried about James. Yeah, I am too. Yeah, he's drinking himself to death. Which he was, you know, no doubt about it. Anyway, she said, he sent for me the other day. I said, yeah, what did he want? She says, he tells me that he's been defrauded. I said, defrauded? I said, so she said, I went to see him. She said, and what he did was he dropped his trousers and showed me this perfectly normal penis and said, call that a dick, I've been defrauded. Well, you've got to say there's something wrong with the guy. That was just one part of it. I've previously told you about the 11-year-old girl and how I reported him to social services. But it was absolutely crazy. I got him a summer season at Blackpool. You can see it on YouTube. All you got to do is search PJ Proby. In fact, I'll put a link down below so you can watch it. Yeah. I took him there to meet the owner, Bobby Hope his name was, with a discussion to getting on a season there. And when we were coming out, I said, right, we'll go for something to eat. We'll go to Robert's Oyster Bar. It's a famous place in Blackpool. Robert's Oyster Bar. It's on the front. So we went in there and Proby ordered 24 oysters, crab sticks, prawns, and he got cayenne pepper, Tabasco sauce, scattered the cayenne pepper, threw it like it was confetti, Tabasco sauce all over the top, and he proceeded to eat 24 oysters. When we went in there, the place was reasonably full. By the time he got to oyster number 12 and was having to shove it down his throat, the place had emptied. Seriously. Yeah. He was that, and all the way back from Robert's Oyster Bar to his home in Bolton. We were driving along the road. I had a brand new Volkswagen GTI Golf or something. I forget. It was something like, it was a Golf, yeah. So anyway, we're driving along the road, and every 100 yards or so, you go, and out would come an oyster. I dined with PJ Proby. Anyway, I hope you know that's the joys of being in showbiz, believe me. So it's that time of day, folks. That's the song dinger. You've had your warning. And what do you think about me singing tonight? Well, thank you very much, Mr. Goat. And all those of you who have been watching this channel, thanks a lot, I really appreciate it. So before I sing this song, which I am going to sing a Johnny Cash song, before I sing this song, I'm going to recite a poem by A.H. Houseman, which is from his collection of poems called A Shropshire Lad. And this is specifically for Aidan. Thanks for following the channel. And all the people who make comments, I do appreciate it, This is Bredon Hill by A. Houseman. In summertime on Bredon the bells they sound so clear. Round both the shires they ring them in steeples far and near, a happy noise to hear. Here of a Sunday morning my love and I would lie, and see the coloured counties and hear the larks on high about us in the sky. The bells would ring to call her in valleys far away. Come all to church, good people come and pray. But here my love would stay, and I would turn and answer among the springing time. O peal upon our wedding, and we will hear the chime, and come to church in time. But when the snows at Christmas on Bredon top were strown, my love rose up so early and stole out unbeknown, and went to church alone. They tolled the one bell only, groom there was none to see. The mourners followed after, and so to church went she, and would not wait for me. The bells they sound on Bredon, and still the steeples hum. Come all to her church, good people, or noisy bells be rung. I hear you, I will come. And now for something entirely different. This is by Johnny Cash. It's his first big hit. This is Cry, Cry, Cry. And by the time I've finished it, I expect there'll be a few tears shed. Everybody knows where you go when the sun goes down. I think you only live to see the lights of town. I waste my time wondering why I try. 'Cause when the lights have lost their glow, you'll cry, cry, cry. Soon your sugar daddies will all be gone. You'll wake up some cold day and find you're alone. You'll call for me, but I'm gonna tell you bye, bye, bye. When I turn around and walk away, you'll cry, cry, cry. You're gonna cry, 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 and you'll cry alone. When everyone's forgotten and you're left on your own, you're gonna cry, cry, cry. I lie awake at night to wait till you come in. You stay a little while and then you're gone again. Every question that I ask, I get a lie, lie, lie. For every lie you tell, you're gonna cry, cry, cry. When your fickle love gets old, no one will care for you. Then you'll come back to me for a little love that's true. I'll tell you no and no, and then you'll ask me why. When I remind you all of this, you're gonna cry, cry, cry. You're gonna cry, 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 and you want me then. I'll hurt when you think of the fool you've been. You're gonna cry, Cry, cry. I bet you're all weeping now it was that bad. I give it my best shot. Like and subscribe. Tales from the Jails, John G. Sutton.